Hey gang, welcome to the channel. You are at Shirtless in Hawaii, episode 2 in a row, Friday, October 6th. Halloween is coming. It's a crazy holiday. I don't know if you know, but Halloween is the second of the most profitable holidays, with Christmas being first. If you don't know me, I am Malik. This is Shirtless in Hawaii. You are in Waikiki with me, and I am attempting to shoot every day. Today's topic is going to be how to start a business in layman's terms, not with the whiteboard and trying to explain exactly, which I could help anyone with if they wanted to message me directly. But this is basically how to change your mindset from being someone who works for people to someone who provides work for others, or hopefully becomes at a position where they don't have to work anymore. I haven't been able to completely pull this off yet, so I might not be the best person to take advice from, but I have pulled it off on several different occasions. And the things that made my businesses no longer be here were things like COVID, and but I had successful companies. One thing I would say that I would like to do in the future is start companies, build them for about a year till they're really humming, maybe 2 years, and make me some money, and then just sell and move on to another project. I enjoy starting new things, and I get bored after too much time in one project. So, first thing you need to think about is you need to get out of your head that you want any job. There's no job that you would want. There's almost no one who could hire you that you would be willing to dedicate your life to their life. And when that switch happens, and obviously there's numbers and people out there, like if you're if you're a golf guy and Tiger Woods comes and asks you to be his right hand man, of course you have to take certain jobs that have beneficial aspects. And what I would recommend for anyone who's young is to find an apprenticeship. So if you know anybody who is specifically good at the thing you want to do, or even connected to those people, you need to start writing letters asking for the chance to be an apprentice to them. And if you don't know what an apprentice is, it's basically someone who is a slave, servant, student, worker of another person who is specifically qualified in an area, usually to make money, but it could be any number of skills. The benefit to having an apprentice is that you are working with someone who actually has done it, and as opposed to if you go to college, you're working with a professor who has actually been a professor. They have not actually done what you're trying to do, and that's why I don't think that it's real necessary to go to business school. I think business school is out there on the street a lot of times. Real numbers, people, hustlers, people that sold weed or whatever, gamblers, stuff like that, can oftentimes handle numbers and not spend their profit entirely in order to basically re-up, if you will, which is done also in the professional world, whether it's be buy more product or pay your rent. That's basically re-upping. So to start with, that's the first step. You don't want to work for anybody, nobody. You want to work for yourself, and you want to grow an army around you. So that's the first step. The second step is you gotta, instead of driving by places or walking by places in your life and looking at them as if, oh look, there's a new store open there, you're looking at that, but even more so, you're looking at empty stores, and you're thinking, what could be there, and just coming up with ideas and brainstorming. And eventually if any of those ideas seem like it's actually something that could really work, like there's no fucking pet store in this town and we need a pet store, it's obvious that everyone has to go all the way over there. Dog food is way more profitable than this and that. It doesn't go bad. This is my chance of people stealing or losing or blah, 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 blah. You do all the math in your head to figure out if it's an actual profitable business. But if you really feel like it is, and you're onto a good location and idea, then oftentimes the next step, at least in my past, has been to come up with some form of artwork and story. So this company is needed here because there's no pet store over here, and there's this many people with pets, and this is the average profit, and I want to do this advertising which would make around this amount of money. So you have to basically go through that in your head, and it's going to take a little bit of research, whether you're online or talking to shop owners in the area or shop owners of the style of commerce that you want to involve yourself in. So basically, once you've done that and you have a good idea of a little write-up, just one paragraph or one page or paragraph, a couple paragraphs that says what it is, why it needs to be there, and how it will operate, and who will go there, and what some of the bills and consequences or potential consequences for failure as well as potential for success are all written in this paragraph, right? And at the end, because you don't want to like go to an investor and say, this is guaranteed. No matter what, we're going to make $1 million, because nothing's guaranteed. So you need to look at everything in a scale and say, look, we could make as much as this, but we'll probably make this much at least. If we make this much, we'll at least break even for a while until we build. But if we can only make this much, then we need to be realistic within this amount of time and cut our losses, right? So obviously you don't think it's going to be the other scenario, or you never would have gone with this idea in the beginning. But once you've taken the time to write up in your mind all of those aspects, again, where it is, why it should be there, what it is, who's going to utilize it, how you're going to reach them, who's going to service and work it, whether it's you or other people, and that these are your estimated totals. You think you could probably do this, you think you could probably do that, or this, or at least that, maybe. But if it's this, then there's a chance that things could go wrong, right? So then possibly artwork or computer rendering or mock-up with Photoshop, where you take a picture of it and put your logo and your branding, and in the windows you'll make as if you had bullet points, and even on the inside, if you get a chance to walk through it, which you will of course, that you'll do something similar. Take pictures when you're inside so that you can create, if you will, an imagination, show your potential investor what you see in your heart as it to be, because you have it pictured in your heart what it's going to look like. And again, this is not for e-commerce or online. This is for brick and mortar trap house stores, whether it's a fucking ice cream shop, a shave ice shop, a pet store, a bungalow that is like a hostel. There's a million different businesses out there. Storage units, cleaning, mechanics, you name it. Okay, so it's just brick and mortar, something that people have to actually go to a building. Okay, the next step is you're going to find out the property manager or the owner's information of that property. And usually it's listed somewhere on a poster near the empty unit, if it's for rent, the number. And it's usually a realtor. So the realtors are, they're encouraged to try to make you look good, if at all possible, if you do look good, and sell you to the owner. And they basically get 2 months rent for doing that. Sometimes more, sometimes less. So they're incentivized to make deals. But if you can find and contact that realtor, give them a quick pitch on, your idea, or just call them and tell them you want to view the space, and establish some sort of cool rapport with them, knowing that basically they're not really working for you, they're working for the owner, and their money's coming from the owner, and you want to seem cool to them, and have them pitch you to the owner in a good light. And so at that point, you're going to ask, what is the asking price? And typically, right when you call them, you're going to ask them if they'll send you a spec sheet or a fact sheet on the price and square footage and layout and demographics, because frequently a realtor has all of that information, and they'll send it over via email to you as a prospective client, and set a time to walk through the unit with you. And you can do this without credentials, but it wouldn't hurt if you said, hey, I'm a chef from over here, or I am a business owner over here. But if you don't have any credentials, you might keep it kind of mum is the word and say, hey, I got an idea for a business at your location, and I'd like to walk through it. And if they go on to press you as far as what is your experience in this or backing, then you could say, hey, I'd love to talk to you about that in person when I see it, or you could relay to them that you'd have a big investor. So if they just think you have a big money investor already in your corner, then they pretty much know they can't push who that is, because that's private, and you don't really have to say, but that's all you really need, basic, aside from who you are, because you're probably in their eyes just running it, for a 10 or 15% chunk, which is obviously not going to be your main plan. So when you see the unit, you're gonna get the spec sheet in the email first, and it's gonna tell you square footage, exactly how big it is, and it's gonna have a couple of numbers. One is price per square foot, maybe $3 or $10 or $20 or $1. It could be any amount per square foot, and let's say it's $1, and let's say it's 1,000 square feet, and so it's $1,000 a month, right? And that's negotiable. Usually the square footage rent is negotiable, and what's called common area maintenance is usually not negotiable. And that's how a lot of landlords actually make money, is they have a pretty exuberant or large CAM fee, which is usually not justified, but they'll add. I've seen places that had $1 per square foot and $1.25 CAM and maintenance. So literally double the rent on common area maintenance, and that's them saying that we have to keep everything nice and running. We have to keep the roof from falling in. We have to mow the grass, etc. And that might still mean that you're responsible for maintenance, which is fucked up. And that's something that you need to clarify with the landlord. And they're going to be motivated to give it to you based on, a lot of times, a lazy landlord that doesn't want to be responsible for too much will give it to someone who doesn't ask as much questions and is obviously willing to do the work. So if you're really drilling a landlord or a realtor, telling them, well, what will they cover? You should be able to get what's included in CAM fee listed. Say, hey, so what does CAM include? Do they do the grass or the outside, or do they do structural, or do they do like equipment? And like none of that is usually covered. That's all your responsibility, right? So basically those are the two numbers. The first number, the square footage, is negotiable. So let's say that the CAM is $1.50 and the rent's $1, and you're like, you know what? And so really what you should do is you should mention to the realtor, after being chummy with them a little bit and walking through and seeing everything, you'll say, how low do you think they'll go on this realistically? And of course they're going to bluff you and say a little higher than they really will, but this will give you an idea of if they'll budge, or if the square footage rent is negotiable. And so they'll say, oh, they're not going to take any less than 75 cents or something, right? And so you might start there by honoring the realtor, or you might say, all right, well, why don't I offer them 50 cents a square foot now, and let's see if they come back with, 75 or maybe under that, and then I'll, see if we can meet somewhere in the middle. I say something like that to the realtor. So this is almost expected to be negotiated, and that's where you're going to do a lot of your wiggle room, and you need to work smart here, because if you don't, you're going to pay a lot more rent. And if you're a sucker just paying what they want, then you're going to get housed in the end. So you can get your rent down by doing a couple back and forths, and those are usually done via email. Everything is always, emails are admissible in court, and so it's just factual, and once they said that, you said this, blah, 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 blah. So usually the emails kind of try to be true to what you really mean, and negotiate the rent price and tell them that yes, you do want the unit and that you'd like to proceed. And at this point, you haven't even had to show them the landlord, your investor yet, oftentimes, unless they require or request it. But you could have negotiated a whole lease, come up with an idea, have a plan, and the keys are basically yours, provided that you get the fucking investor, right? So now you have all of these pieces. Now you go through your phone and you look, who do you know with money? Who is savvy? Who's looking for something cool? Who believes in you? And this is where your reputation helps. You don't want to obviously be someone who's known for ripping people off, or this plan won't work at all. You don't want to, and you want to structure or tell them, the investor, that the business, you have the keys, you're shopping for an investor, and you want to sell, I would suggest anywhere from a small amount, depending on the value and what you need to open it up, to a large amount, upwards of 49%. But if you can retain 51%, then you still own controlling interest, meaning it's still your store, still your ideas, still your name. If they say, no, you know what, we don't want to call it that anymore, call it this, you're fucked if you give up and go down to 49, because they have controlling interest, right? And the only exception to this would be, and we're obviously at the point where we've already got a location we want, we've got an idea, we've walked through it, we've talked to the realtor, we know that they'll take this much. Now we have it all written out and planned, and we can go to these people and say, hey, throw in 100K, maybe 50K, maybe 20K, maybe 10, whatever you need to build your entire company. Also have a little cushion to pay rent, at least 3 months, probably at least, and that's being kind of crazy. Buy all the products you need. Buy the insurance policy you're going to need to lease the land, the property. Pay for the electric, trash removal, basic utilities and appliances and things that are negotiated in the lease that you're covering or they're covering. But at this point, you are going to put together an LLC, or I'm sorry, not an LLC, an INC, or you file as a corporation, a S Corp, and you're going to issue 1,000 shares from your company. Typically, you could do 100, you could do 10,000, however many fraction amounts you want it to be. But 1,000, it's really 100% is what the 1,000 shares represents. And then you're going to keep, 600 of those 1,000 and sell 400 shares to your investor. Have them mentioned on the paperwork for the corporation as co-owners or investors in this company and project, and give them a forecast of what they should be able to make. And the way that you really figure out an investment that is sexy is it's basically if you put in 10 grand and get 10,000 back every 3 years, it's a good investment. So that's not really sexy, but it's fair. and it's expected, and it's, better than real estate. It's good. Okay? But if you put in 10,000 and you get your money back every 2 years, now you're really talking to somebody, and that excites them because they're putting in risk, so they want high reward. So really you should be trying to give them so you know how much all the bills are because you've calculated it, and you know how much the rent is, and you know how much the expected profit is after all of the expenses, including labor and everything else. And you have to factor all this stuff. And then you'll figure 40% of that is going to this person, and you want to make sure that they're going to get the total amount. So let's say they're putting in $10,000, then that means the 40% has to equal out to at least $5,000 in your head of profit over 1 year, because you need at least 2 years to pay them back in full and to make it attractive. For me, I take it to another level. I say, fuck it, you know what? I try to find businesses that are profitable, and that will return your money every year in full. And that is what people are really looking for. If you can come up with a business plan, something with low overhead, low labor, low risk, high reward, that you're going to manage and operate. Some rich person is going to finance, or someone not even rich, maybe good credit, whatever, is going to finance, but you're going to operate. And again, there is a paper inside of your corporation that's called the operating agreement. Make sure this is filled out very well, and that it basically says who's responsible for what, and who gets, this is part of the whole shares and percentage. It says who gets what, who handles the banking, who does the audit, how often are people paid out or responsible for losses. Is it monthly? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? Is it annually? So all of that stuff is outlined in your operating agreement, and it's important that that piece of paper, that document, when working with partners, is done and done well. Usually you should have a lawyer do it, but at this day and age, you can go on ChatGPT and ask AI to write you an operating agreement, and then you can, if something's off, you can say, hey, can you put in a clause in there that says this and that, and it'll write it all for you in professional terms. And so it's no real excuse not to be able to have that done well at this stage. And it's something that, because I've lost money a couple of times without having an operating agreement and just investing so much time and energy and like money or efforts to a project, and then at the end having to rely on the goodwill of somebody saying, oh yeah, here's your percentage and this is what you're supposed to do or not supposed to do. So it's really good to have what happens if we succeed? This is how much you get, this is how much I get. What happens if, what am I responsible for? The food, the liquor, the dog? Like, what is my job? What's your job? Does the investor person, the other person, do they have any job? Or do they just invest and you do everything? So these all have to be outlined and clear to make that person feel comfortable and like it is a good investment. And you could think of an operating agreement sort of like a prenuptial agreement in a marriage, because when you get into business with somebody in an LLC or a shared company, you're basically marrying them, for better or worse. Like when you marry somebody, if they fuck up, you're fucked up, right? So that's what you got to think about. You're in this company together. If they fuck up, you're fucked up. And there's limit. Obviously, certain people have different risks. They could lose their money, or you could lose your time and efforts. But at the end of the day, there's risk, and it's really, really important that you take the time to hash together a good operating agreement that says what people's responsibilities are and how they will proceed even through the worst times. In other words, it should stay in there. If you get sick or die or go here or go there, or if something happens and you can no longer do your job, then this happens. And then if not, then this happens. And so you need to agree on those terms prior. And once you've done that, Everybody looked at it, back and forth, signed it. Now you have your investor, you have a check from them, which is the amount necessary, which is pretty much you can determine from the realtor. You say, well, what do they need to see in the bank right away? I have an account. How much money do they need to see in the account to feel comfortable? And how much, down payment? And I have this, financer person. So basically it could be any number of things. They could just see, oh crap, that's a really respectable person, and just run their credit and see that they're on the company and issue it to you without all that trouble. But it might be a whole lot of stuff where they want to see a bank account open with a certain amount of money in the account ready to handle this project. And then at that point, you are going to need to go on and have either a lawyer or a service or something, actually a little bit right after all this stuff is kind of figured out, and you'll submit your operating agreement and your percentages and your paperwork and get your bank account open in both of your names, but you're the person who has access, unless you agree to something else. And basically you have to provide a profit and loss statement to those people. Shows how much you either made or lost, which is a pretty simple, calculation, all the bills versus all the money that came in, and then you have to make sure that your taxes are paid and your labor is done. But all this can be done automated now. There's services where they figure out pay all your sales tax every night from your register, and everything is done for you. And as far as recommendations on different POS systems or ways to program, operate, promote, even ideas for businesses or potential investors who are interested in working with me, here and some things I have going on in Waikiki. Some fun ones. A couple are pretty sexy. We have a brand called Lifestyle, which is going to be it's a food truck that's sustainable island food with a health bar inside. So food truck outside, health bar inside. Big outdoor, indoor, covered out in the sun seating area. Health bar inside. Private venue upstairs where there's apprenticeship schooling going on all week, Monday through Friday, and parties during the weekend. Membership parties where you have to be pretty much a member. And any member can teach a class based on skills they have. And then other people that are members can take any class and sort of learn how to bartend or speak a language or about finance or about how to cook healthy for yourself. So it's this project is called Lifestyle. It's right by the convention center in Ala Moana. I'm pretty sure we found our investor today, the last one we need. But if you are interested in jumping in that project, it's possible to get in the next month maybe. And then I'm opening Local Boys Shave Ice on the Strip, Kalakaua Avenue. It's going to be smoked meat, ahi plates, shave ice, venison. Like, I'm going to have a meat locker where you can basically buy ground venison, loins, racks, everything, because we have excessive deer on the island of Maui that they're culling, shooting, whether we eat it or not, and it's so good, so much better than even beef. Axis deer is number one. It's like I really changed my whole diet to that, and so yeah, there's a lot of opportunities going on here with me. If you'd like to, reach out to me, I would love to talk story and show you some of this. I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to do quite as much, but I want to do things really well and hopefully start things and sell them and have them have a philanthropy angle where they support people with giving them jobs, giving them education, and then just giving them food that won't kill you. I really think there's a plan going on with poisonous food that's poisoning everybody, and that's why our food is not legal all over the world. And I think we need to wake up and really concentrate on what we're giving our kids and what we're eating ourselves. Stay away from anything that had the herbicide or metrazine on it, as well as, which could be all the soy products and all the corn products and any number of things. So in other words, try to get organic, and also small farms again, and stop. I've tried to stop eating meats that were raised to be eaten. So that's why this venison product is so huge. I have the best price because I was an early adopter. I think 8 years ago when Maui Nui venison first started, I was buying from them, and they are really good to me. So if you want, I could set you up with the best meats in the world for your restaurant or your home or your family. Just reach out to me. I really appreciate your time. I'll have some links below on how to purchase, or some sales sheets with different prices for meats as well. I guess this is my half hour for today. I didn't expect to make it this far again, but this is 2 days in a row. Shirtless in Hawaii. Malik, Chef Christopher Malik, checking off. I hope to get some cool guests this week. I have a bunch of people that say they want to, and like some really unique Oahu characters that need to be seen. So I'm excited to show you guys what I've been up to over here and continue this daily post. Thanks again for your time. Aloha and mahalo.